Good morning, everyone. I am here to show you this morning how to take the cheesy chicken broccoli quinoa casserole and get it prepared to go into your freezer until you're ready to cook it at a future date. Right now, all I've done is exactly what the recipe calls for. I have cooked my chicken, I've cooked the quinoa, I've got the broccoli ready to go. I've mixed it together with the cheese sauce, I've sprinkled cheese on top, and now it is sitting in a foil baking dish. Now, let me grab the baking dishes I use. For our casseroles, I find that this size is the perfect for any recipe, unless we're doing some form of a lasagna, and then of course I'll get more of a rectangular pan. But this is they're called poultry pans, and they are 9 3/8 by 9 3/8 by 2 3/8. So they're bigger than an 8 by 8 and they're deeper as well. And it's just the perfect casserole dish for the freezer. Do not buy the ones with lids, or I encourage you not to, because A, they cost more money, but B, they take up twice the space because the lid has to sit on top of it and you can't stack them as effectively. So with that in mind, let's get you going. So the recipe has everything getting ready, and the recipe ends with you putting this into the oven to bake it. And absolutely, if you want to go ahead and bake it and eat it for dinner tonight, go for it. But if you're looking to freeze it, you need to take the time to take a couple of steps to get it ready. So what I like to do is I like to add a layer of plastic wrap, just good old-fashioned cling wrap. I use Glad, but any brand, and get that on the pan. I had it on and I took it off to show you guys how I do it. So let me get it back on there. Just layer it. It's not going to cling to the foil pan like it might to other bowls and plastic bowls and whatnot, but just get it on there and make sure that it is sealed. All the edges are sealed. You do not want air creeping into this. Now, the next layer is going to be foil. You need to double layer it. This is to keep the air out of, I'm just gonna get a new piece, to keep the air out. So grab a foil and put it straight on the casserole, fold it over. Now, you must remember you have foil, plastic underneath this foil. You cannot cook this casserole with the plastic on it. It will ruin the meal, possibly causing damage to your oven. So I like to definitely make a note of that on the top. So you follow the recipe, you do not cook it before you freeze it. All I did was assemble it. I did not bake it and then freeze it. I've assembled it and now I'm freezing it before you bake it. So the first thing we're gonna write is the recipe. This is the cheesy chicken quinoa broccoli casserole. That's a long name, isn't it, guys? And then you're going to reference your recipe for the details. You're going to need to know that it has to bake for 20 minutes on 375. So I always just do the temperature, and then we know it's got to bake for 20 minutes. And that's all I write. Just, you can see that. I just write 375, 20 minutes. That way, when I call my husband and say, hey, babe, there's a casserole on the shelf in the fridge. Can you pop it in the oven? The temperature and the time is on there. And that way, when I'm headed, when I'm headed home from wherever I was, he can get it in the oven without having to do anything. So there's a hot meal when I get home from cheer practice or volleyball or wherever I'm at that evening. Now this is important. I always do a big star and I write remove foil and plastic. This way, I remember there's plastic under here and my husband knows to just bake it uncovered. I can also write bake uncovered underneath the time. but I always make sure I label it remove foil and plastic. You don't want to assume you're going to remember it's on there because this is going to go in your freezer. It could be a month or 2 months before you cook this meal, and you do not want to try to remember there's foil or plastic underneath your foil. So now all you do is it's ready to go. So, you know, if you're like me and you're cooking several other casseroles, you make the next one, it just sticks on top, you stick on top, and you basically have a very space-saving storage system for your freezer for your meals. Now, this size casserole is going to feed my family for 2 or 3 meals, but I'm gonna bake it at once because we tend to eat on our casseroles for dinner, and then I will eat it for lunch. My husband will take it for lunch. My daughter will take it to campus for lunch. So it gets eaten. I don't need to cut it in half, but you could take the recipe and cut it in half and freeze it in 2 portions, and that way you have 2 meals out of this one recipe. So you always have to adjust and implement new things that work for your family, but this is the basic how to get this casserole into your freezer. I hope this helps, guys. I'll see you on the next one.